how many mining operations, farms are there, for people that are thinking, okay, well, now I get mining, but how many people can Link actually help? How many of these mining operations or farms are out there in the world?
My guess is that there's a few thousand. There's a lot of farms out there, different sizes, right? And it really depends. What are they doing? Are they offering hosting services? Are they mining themselves? But there's literally thousands of them, and many different countries. There's people that are mining with 10 machines. There are people that are mining with 100,000 machines out there. So you've got a real big mix, and everything's called a mine, right? Everything you're mining Bitcoin, you're a mine. And how can Link help? I think one is that we provide a very good service. We have a great relationship with a company called Block One, and both of us, our expertise is providing that kind of stable generation of power, along with provision of hardware to mine. So we kind of offer people that turnkey package. We promise people uptime. So if they're not getting the uptime, we fill that in with our own hash rate to make sure that their mining operation remains stable. And we offer people the best power price. That's, again, it comes down to that. And we're in what we think is a very steady geopolitical climate as well. And I think we've seen a lot of places, to be honest with you, even Eastern Canada and Lake Wenatchee in Washington State, get very, very tired of the boom in miners, and then put a certain interesting tax on Bitcoin miners. So you've seen that. Unstable countries, you see, guys just coming in and basically claiming the mining operations as theirs. So I've heard a lot of horror stories, and definitely been at enough kind of conferences and met with a lot of people to know that there's got to be a balance. You may not be the absolute cheapest power in the world, but you want to balance that with all these other elements as well, including stability, right? And price stability is one of those things. So what Link does to do that is we generally will own or have a very long-term contract for our power price. So we remain we know what that's going to cost us, and we can remain stable. So that's our advantage, is that we're really creating this kind of stability for people in what I think some people would fear is not the most stable environment, which is Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, right?
Yeah, there's already enough risk. Why, like, I think you touched on a good point. You might not be the cheapest in the whole world, but obviously when it comes to other elements of risk in there, obviously it makes you guys a pretty good selection. It's similar to like actual mining. I think, there's a very good comparison. You say, hey, like, well, would I rather mine in Canada or mine in Africa? Yeah, sure, Canada might cost a little bit more, but you get to avoid all the political stuff happening in Africa. So definitely, a big benefit there. On to the next kind of question here. You mentioned in your first little video, the first interview, you did a lot of stuff in the cannabis space from an energy side. Do you want to talk about how it's similar to crypto mining? And maybe again, just try and link the two. I'm sure from a theory standpoint, it's very similar, but do you want to walk people through that?
Yeah, sure. That the cannabis space is probably more challenging from an energy perspective than the Bitcoin space. Bitcoin space is, if I can put it this way, if you can turn on the electricity and it's stable, it's just a what we call a load profile that's dead flat. It means if I put on my miners, I have 1,000 miners. Each miner's drawing 3,000 watts. Means I need a 3 megawatt site. So I can say, I know for the next year I'm going to run this site and it's going to be 3 megawatts, and it's going like this. There's a tiny little bump for heating and cooling, mostly on the cooling side, but there's very little variation. So I can then project my costs for the entire year. Cannabis, on the other side of that, you go, okay, we're starting today, but for this amount of hours, we're going to have lights on. Then we're going to have lights off. and then we're going to have cooling on, and we're going to, so their load profile looks like this, right? And so, but you still have to provide for power at the top of that load profile and the bottom, which is just as hard. So depending on how you're getting your power, the either the guy that's selling you the power or the people that are providing that power, they hate you because your load is really hard on whatever system they're using, right? And it's instant. I demand power, I don't need power. I demand power, I don't need power. So crypto has a big advantage in terms of being able to go to our provider and say, look, I can tell you in a year, here's what I'm going to take. That cannabis doesn't have that opportunity, right? So what we would do for cannabis is we would kind of start to shave the peaks and the valleys for them. So we would teach them how to manage their system to bring those peaks and valleys down, because if you bring the peaks down, I don't need to come up with a capex to provide power at that peak, right? Yeah. And if I can bring the lower ones together, then I'm just doing this and I'm squeezing it like that. So the synergies between crypto and cannabis are actually kind of interesting, because I know I can provide this base load, and then within cannabis, I can kind of say, oh yeah, here's my heating and cooling profile, but I can share the excess heat from my crypto operations. I can knock some fans out and do stuff that balances the load for the cannabis side. So there's many people that have been playing around with it. There's lots of smart people in the marketplace saying that, maybe the two, and then you can go on to, like with the gas generators, we can go on and actually scrub the emissions and take the CO2 from those emissions and pump that into the cannabis operations, which they're paying to do now. They're paying to buy CO2 to get the plants to grow faster, right? So carbon dioxide is actually a good thing if you're trying to grow things, right? The plants take that carbon dioxide and they simply turn it into oxygen, right? So you want to have, there's that kind of synergy. It's very interesting, and things that we're playing around with, right? And that's where, if people understand energy and all the technologies out there, there's no one silver bullet for all this, right? That's what people forget. So wind, solar, we're looking at everything. And what we're looking at it for is to keep that ultimate balance in our load profile. And if I can get some base load from solar, I can get some from wind, I can use my battery system to shave the peaks and valleys. So imagine a cannabis operation where I could take out, let's say, $5,000 a day in peak load, and I could shave that with a battery. It's pretty easy, right? I paid $100,000 for my battery, and in 20 days, my ROI is 20 days because I just saved you this, right? So again, it's all math, and it's all about kind of, thinking outside the box and how you can create the two. So understanding electricity is fundamental to the process.